By the end of the day, does your back hurt? Are you sore right underneath those sharp bony spots in your bottom? Is your neck stiff from holding it up all day long? Here's one thing that nobody may have told you. Your wheelchair is not supposed to make you hurt more. Pain is information, and today I'm going to show you how to read that. Location by location, so you know exactly what your body is trying to point you to. And stick around for the neck and shoulder one at the end because the fix for that pain is nowhere near your neck. People can spend years fixated on the wrong part to fix their pain. My name is KJ Phillips. I'm an ATP SMS. Welcome to Adaptive Solutions. Let's get right to it. I had a patient who was in pain after just 20 minutes of sitting every single day. Same wheelchair for 7 or 8 years. She just hadn't realized the impact of sitting statically, unsupported for that long. Her whole day was from chair till she got really uncomfortable, went back to bed, back to the chair, back to bed throughout the day. Uncomfortable the whole time in her chair until she just couldn't stand it, and then she would go take a break in bed. And she really couldn't even go outside for very long because of how painful and exhausting it was on her body to be bounced around on uneven surfaces. What she didn't realize is that she was missing supportive, custom molded seating at just the right spot. That along with the ability of a powered wheelchair to move her body throughout the day independently. And her quality of life ever since has improved so much. And here's why I'm telling you this. For years, she thought that pain was just part of the deal. It's not. And yours might not be either. Two ideas make everything in this video make sense. Number one, your weight gets spread across whatever surface is holding it. Spread it over a lot of tissue, and no one spot gets pinched too hard. Concentrate your weight onto a small area and the pressure spikes. Think of someone pressing you with their finger versus pressing that same amount of force with a pinprick. Which one hurts more? So concentrate on a small area and the pressure spikes, and that's where pain shows up. Second, your posture is built from the pelvis up. And so pain in one place may often be starting somewhere else, which means where it hurts and when it starts to hurt are clues, kind of like a road map. So let's read yours. All right, this is the most common one I hear, low back pain. Guess where it usually starts? Not your back, it's your pelvis. When your pelvis rolls backward when it's unsupported, the posterior pelvic tilt we've talked about in other earlier videos, your spine loses its natural curve and rounds out. Now your low back muscles, as a result of that, spend the whole day stretched out and strained, holding you up in a shape that they were never built to hold. And you put all that weight and tension onto the joints, the flexible joints of your spine. That's where your ache could be coming from. And so what do you do to check this? First, you've heard me say this before, is your butt scooted all the way back? The PSIS, those top two crests on the back of your pelvis, should be resting against the backrest. If you're slumped forward and there's a gap behind your pelvis and the backrest, then your back has absolutely no support to work with. Second, is your backrest actually supporting the shape of your back, or is it just flat or maybe even like a curved tension upholstery backrest? When you're in the chair 8 to 10 hours a day, that difference is huge. Real quick, if you're new here, the purpose of this channel is to raise the standard in assistive technology by giving high quality, digestible education at no cost to patients, to clinicians, to my peers, which is just part of my life's purpose to improve lives and unlock potential in others. All right, so back to the map. Next could be like pain underneath your bottom. Too much weight probably spread over too little of an area. If you're sore right underneath your sit bones or your tailbone, remember what we said. Same weight, Smaller area, more pressure. Something in your setup is concentrating your weight onto only those small bony prominences underneath your bottom. Here's what I check. Have you accidentally slid forward? Do you need to scoot your butt back? Go check out my sliding video. It's the very first one I did, and it's such an important concept. You'll hear me say it so many times. It has lots of helpful information for you. Maybe your foot plates are too high. Maybe your thighs actually aren't contacting the seat anymore, meaning that there's more weight on just your bottom. We covered that in a past video. And this is the one that people hardly remember to check, is your cushion still doing its job? Cushions wear out, and here's actually how to check yours depending on the type of cushion you have. If you're on a gel cushion, make sure to remember to go into that gel pack and repack or even out the gel frequently. What does that mean? It means once you're out of the chair, have you or a caregiver massage all the gel until it's more flat. Move it back all into one flat pack. Gel gets moved when you sit down, and if you keep sitting in the same place without repacking the gel, eventually you may reach the bottom of that gel pack and not be realizing it. Gel also can pop or get hard over years. And so these cushions and the gel packs do need to be replaced over the years. If you're on an air cushion like Roho, here's the check I use. Have the person tilt back or do a tricep kind of dip push up and place your hand palm down underneath their ITs, ischial tuberosities, meaning the two kind of sharp sit bones that are right where your kind of your butt cheek meets your thigh. All right, so you should have them sit back down, and then when they do, wiggle your fingers. If there's so much pressure that you can't wiggle your fingers almost at all, then there's too much air in the cushion, and you are actually sitting on top of the cushion instead of into the cushion. If there's too little air, then when you put your hand underneath and they sit down in your hand, you may feel like the seat pan and their bone right on top of your hand with one finger. And so that would mean that when they sit, they're going to be sitting right on the seat pan underneath. That's too little air. And so you're looking for this in-between zone where when they sit on you, you can wiggle your hand about a half inch to maybe an inch, depending on the profile of your cushion. That means the height of your cushion. So that's the Goldilocks zone you want to be in for air. Now, if you have a foam cushion, foam will also eventually compress and wear out. But the differences aren't as dramatic as they are with gel and air. And so you do also need to get foam cushions replaced periodically. They'll get really stiff. And listen, pain here is the one that you should take very seriously. If you can feel that area underneath your bottom, this is exactly where pressure wounds have a very high risk of starting. If you have sensation, pain is your early warning system, and it's telling you something. Later in this video, I'll also give you one question that tells you whether that pain is a setup problem or maybe a endurance or static seating problem. Just hang on to that. All right, so for number 3, thigh and leg pain. If you feel like your legs are numb, your toes or your feet are numb, or there's this like tingling sensation, pins and needles down your legs, that probably has to do with your foot plate being too low. Your legs are hanging off the edge of that cushion, pressing that cushion to the underside of your thighs and cutting off the blood flow. That's what that numb, tingly feeling is. You know, if it's too high, then your knee's right up and you go right back to problem number 2, which was weight underneath your bottom. The test to see if this is your problem is one from my last video about foot plate height. Take your hand and slide it underneath between your thigh, or a caregiver can slide their hand in between your thigh and your cushion. If you get absolutely no resistance and your hand goes right underneath, through to the other side, you know that your foot plates are too high and you're not using that valuable thigh tissue to load weight. If you can't get underneath at all, and you feel like, boy, this would not feel comfortable in my fingers if there was this much pressure, then you know there's too much pressure on your thigh too. What you want is that same kind of Goldilocks zone where you can stick your hand underneath and, get a certain distance, but not all the way through to the other side of the leg easily. Takes a little bit of experience, but you can tell kind of intuitively by touch what's too much or too little using what I just described. Pain type number 4 is different. It's like that end of day stiffness. Now, here's the type of pain that mostly shows up after you leave the chair, or the stiffness can show up as just like a dull ache in like your hips or knees when you're sitting in the chair. Think of like when you transfer into the bed at the end of the day, as you lay down, you feel that painful tight pulling and kind of painful stretch at your hips and knees. That's a sign that you are not moving enough throughout the day. Here's something that surprises people. The best posture is actually constantly moving. That's the best posture. And so your body was never meant to hold one position for so many hours straight. And so what does moving look like when you're in a wheelchair? You can change the angle of your knees with your leg rests if you have powered leg rests. In a powered chair, you can tilt back and recline. Now, recline is the important part of that, because if you tilt back on your own, you don't actually open up your hips. Look at the relation between my two fingers as I tilt back. It's the same. Actually, recline, just the backrest by itself, is what allows your trunk to move away from your hips and open up your hip angle. Get that kind of natural passive stretch throughout the day. If you're not in a power chair, this may look like constant repositioning by a caretaker, if this is like a tilt and space chair, or if you're in a manual wheelchair, constantly shifting and moving around on your own, maybe transferring to different chairs, scooting your butt forward, leaning your body back, just constantly moving. And if you're someone who can feel everything, but you just don't have the energy to always be repositioning yourself, like with many muscle degenerative conditions, I want you to know that there are solutions made just for you. Powered wheelchairs have functions built so that you can move your body in space throughout the day, instead of waiting 8 to 10 hours while that stiffness accrues. It makes a huge difference. All right, number 5, neck and shoulder pain. This is the one I told you to stick around for. Stiff neck and tight shoulders, and you'd swear it's a problem with your headrest. So many people tell me, my neck hurts, my headrest must be in the wrong position. This thing never holds my head up. A headrest can't hold your head up. It's not the problem. Where is the problem? Your pelvis. When your pelvis rolls back and causes your shoulders to slump forward, your head will then hang in a forward position. And the further your head goes in front of its base support, meaning the rest of your spine, it becomes exponentially heavier. Your neck and shoulders spend the entire day pulling that weight back up. That's your stiffness. That's where your neck pain is coming from. And so here's the counterintuitive part. Neck pain often improves when we fix the pelvis first. Get the pelvis supported behind by scooting your butt all the way back. Depending on you, you may also need like a lumbar support to extend through your thoracic spine. And then that will get your trunk and your head stacked over your spine instead of in front. Your head will naturally kind of float back over your shoulders where it feels nice and light again. And while you're taking a look at this, also check your armrests. The rule is pretty simple. Your elbows should be supported, not lifted up, not dangling. Both of those cause pain over time. And though you may find some people out in the field that specifically want you to leave the armrest lower than their elbow or a little bit too high, you can listen to their taste. But in general, you just want it to make contact. Again, you hear this concept of the Goldilocks zone coming in a lot. Not too much, not too little. All right, so here's the question that I promised you. When does the pain start? If you hurt from the very moment you sit down, that points to a real problem in your setup. Something's wrong from minute one. If you're fine in the morning but hurting by like lunch or the afternoon, that points to a lack of mobility throughout the day. Maybe this is your endurance. Your body is likely tiring out and collapsing into a posture that's harder to maintain over time. The chair possibly may not be supporting you well enough, but if it is supporting you well and comfortable for an hour or two, then you may need to also use seat functions within the chair to reset your posture, allow your muscles to relax, and use those functions to move throughout the joints that it helps you to move throughout the day. Those are not the same pains. They're two different types of pains. One that's immediate once you get in the chair and one that shows up after hours. And so that helps you really diagnose what really is the issue. Where is the issue in your setup? Do you need to make small changes or do you need to make large changes? Changes in equipment or changes in behavior? Think about my patient from the beginning of this video. Pain didn't just take her comfort, it took away her days. She couldn't stay in her chair long enough to be carefree and spend time outside. Pain is a very sneaky way of making you do less, a little bit at a time. A little bit less time outside, a little bit less time mobile, more going back to bed just to recover. And it happens so slowly that you start to think it's your new normal. And then when it compounds, pain will make you kind of contort your body into a worse posture. Like let's say you're sitting on your tailbone, you might scoot off to the side to one butt cheek, where at least your tailbone isn't hurting, but now you've created a scoliosis that's going to work its way up. Pain is the earliest and cheapest warning sign that you will ever get. And the next warning after that is like scoliosis or a pressure wound. So if your pain is severe, if it's getting worse fast, or came after a recent accident or fall, call your medical professional or seating specialist right now. This video is educational and it does not replace an in-person evaluation. It's meant to help you understand what your pain is trying to tell you so that you can ask better questions and figure out your own next steps. If you do want a second set of eyes, I offer wheelchair pain and positioning consultations. Head to my website. You can book a consult there. The link's in the description, or you can email me at info@getadaptivesolutions.com, spelled just the way it shows up on the screen. Next in the series, we're going to take a look at unexplained exhaustion and what the sources could be at the end of the day. It might be your chair. Subscribe so that you don't miss it. And then while you're at it, go ahead and like this video and share it with someone who you may think benefits. Thank you so much for your time and your attention, and I'll see you in the next video.